So can I say that I was created out of love, for love, to love?
That's your only purpose, and that's all that you can possibly be. Because God is love, and God is the creative energy, the creative consciousness, the infinite mind that decided for you to be here. So love can only create like itself.
And my barriers, my thinking, my ego is what I need to...
The programming that's in your mind that got superimposed on top of what you are already as a perfect divine being, it's the programming that we need to begin to start the deleting option.
Okay, thank you.
We need to begin to let go of things that are opposite to the truth of who we are. And we will only be at peace when we question all of those beliefs that block our truth. So let me keep reading here. Still in the same section, paragraph 6. That we need to recognize is that love is the only reality. So recognize this, for it is true. And truth must be recognized if it is to be distinguished from illusion. The special love relationship is an attempt to bring love into separation. Because when we believe we need another person to be whole and complete, we are actually saying that you and I are separate. So if you and I are separate, then you've got the piece that completes me. Again, thank you very much, Jerry Maguire. You complete me. So we've got to move out of believing others are halves that make us whole. So we've got to begin to move to the space of recognizing our wholeness is inherent in every single one of us. And when we realize that everybody is whole already, we begin to operate very differently, because now we begin to, instead of trying to get something from the other, we go back to giving and receiving. We are giving of ourselves because we are receiving the joy of the giving of who we are in reality. So now I'm going to jump to the next page there, paragraph 8. So heaven waits silently, and your creations, which is our thoughts, our own beliefs, your creations are holding out their hands to help you cross and welcome them. And I'll explain that in a second. For it is they that you seek but for your own completion. And it is this they who render you complete. What this means is that we need to cross this bridge. Remember, in the last couple of nights that we have met, we've talked about the bridge. The bridge is to move. We need to move from believing that we are separate people with egos. We need to cross the bridge and return to reclaiming our holiness. And our relationships are the opportunities, because every irritation brings up our belief systems. But because we didn't understand before that these are our creations, we heard things about us, and when we accepted them, they become something that we have created. We have created an identity. We have created a sense of self, sense of unworthiness, a sense of superiorness. I create for myself the beliefs that I hold once I agree that that is my truth. So for us to return to heaven, and heaven is nothing more than returning to the truth of our wholeness. When we all recognize that we're all made by God as love, to love, for the purpose of loving one another, that our individualities, our differences are part of what makes us a whole humanity. When we get comfortable with that, that's what heaven is all about. Heaven on earth is created when nobody's trying to get something from anybody else, and all of us are giving of what we have to share. Some are going to be giving the talents of music, some are going to be giving the talents of growing food, some will be giving the talents of writing or reading or teaching or being a parent. So we all have something to give, but we've not been taught that in giving that, we receive the joy of the recognition of our wholeness, our completion, and our worth. So to get to heaven, we need to look at our creations. Our creations are the things that we're believing. So the special love relationship is but a shabby substitute for what makes you whole in truth, not an illusion. So every partner that we have latched onto and said, you complete me, we have literally chained them to the responsibility of giving us what we are unwilling to see is already in ourselves, because we've created a barrier to it. Why? Because mom and dad taught us that they needed each other to be okay. We have examples of when parents get divorced and the parents fall apart. Now they're not happy anymore, or one might be happy but not the other. So we're seeing that it's like you almost need that other person to be happy. If they leave you, you're unhappy. So we have all of these barriers that we have to move through because they're beliefs that we have created and adopted as real.
How does this all relate to the male and female roles, gender roles?
Well, as I said earlier, we have defined male and female like if they were two separate halves.
Right.
And when we do that, we don't honor the wholeness of every being, which has masculine and feminine energy.
Right.
So any role that anybody wants to assume, if it is assumed from love, it is for the purpose of giving and receiving the joy of doing that. So if the man wants to be the provider, wonderful. But if the man wants to be the stay-at-home dad, that should be accepted too. But the programming in society makes us feel ashamed if we feel like doing something other than the role that is assigned to us. So the Course in Miracles is basically letting us know that we should be under no laws but God. And God has given all of us one function. And that function is to be happy. So there should be no role other than to play the role that God assigned to us. Be happy and do whatever the heck you want to do. If you want to be the man and bring home the bacon, fine. If you want to be the woman and bring home the bacon, fine. It does not matter. But society has created these roles and these agreements that then activate shame and guilt and hatred. Because when you're not happy doing the role that you should be doing, there's going to be an upset, there's going to be that hatred inside that is not ever going to be happy, it's not going to be satisfied. So that's a wonderful question. The Course in Miracles wants to wipe away everything humans have made up. So we can get back to the basics. We're already whole and complete. Now let's just love each other and let's get along. Let's return this place to heaven on earth.
So the gender roles are created by human beings then?
The roles, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, because just because you're a man doesn't mean you have to do things a certain way. So you should do whatever feels good.
Okay.
Yeah?
So if I'm the CEO of a company and I go to the board meeting wearing makeup and a dress, it's not going to be well received.
It's not going to be well received by people who have beliefs that that's wrong.
Yeah.
But if somebody doesn't have the belief, it wouldn't be an issue whatsoever.
Okay.
If you walk into a board meeting with RuPaul, that would not be an issue. It just wouldn't be. That would be accepted because that belief system is not there. So it's all in what you believe, and once you assign a right and a wrong to it, you're operating from the ego. Now there's special love and special hate. I love you if you come to the board meeting without makeup, but I'm going to hate you if you come in with makeup. Which means that I'm going to give you permission to be here without makeup because that protects me. It protects my belief system. It lets me stay righteous. And that fills a hole in my brokenness. So if I ever heard Dad tell me, boys don't wear makeup, I cannot let a man wear makeup and accept it because it goes against something my dad taught me. And if I want to feel at peace inside with my dad, I'm going to have to make sure you behave like my dad taught me all men should behave. So I'm going to move to control you so that I don't have to deal with that irritation that is saying, maybe my dad was wrong. Maybe my dad's beliefs and judgments were incorrect. And that is a function of conditional behavior, conditional love. I'm setting up a condition that you need to meet before I love you the way God loves you. And if I cannot love you the way God loves you, it's because I don't know that I'm love. So I'm avoiding you activating my own internal fears. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you see how we're unpacking? We're unpacking a lot of stuff here. This is like
A lot of baggage.
A lot of baggage, a lot of baggage. So of course, any judgments on other people are going to be coming from a place of fear and that guilt. I don't want to let down my parents who taught me this or whoever I felt I need to be loyal to for the teachings. And this is that ego relationships is about ownership. You know, this is my corporation, this is my meeting. You're going to come in here and behave the way I want you to behave. There's no room for partnership and individuality in that. And of course, it leads to human devolution, which means I don't want you to be how you are. I want to make you less. I want you to devolve from your true essence, being a man who wants to wear makeup. I want you to devolve from that and become less than what you want to be, so that I get to be okay. Because anything that seeks control seeks to make the other ones less than who they are. It's crazy, yes.
Okay. So if you're observing someone who is being the way they are, but in your observation they are putting people down in their conversation, is that something that you look at as neutral?
You want to look at why is it upsetting
Why
you?
is it irritating?
So yeah, so if there's anything that anybody does, I mean, it's a wonderful question, and it's something we all have to deal with, because in these relationships, we need to get clear, are we operating from ego, or are we operating from our holy state? From our holy state, we could recognize that the other person is saying what they're saying, and we can then, our ear, because in stillness, like I said, let me be still and listen for the truth. Instead of quick judging them, I go to, okay, God, what's going on here? And we're listening to what they're saying. And let's say they are saying something that could be called mean-spirited. That is a call for love. That person is hurting. That person is inside of their own fears, their own insecurities, putting somebody down, doing something that's unkind. So it is not loving for us who want to wake up and acknowledge the truth of who we are, who want to become people who live from our truth, who acknowledge our holiness. We can't experience our holiness if we don't give to them the same right as a holy child of God, because then we're not going to be receiving the feeling, the knowingness, the energy of it. It doesn't mean that we don't move towards correction, but we do it lovingly, not to shame them, not to guilt them, but rather, hey, brother, sister, you may not realize what you're doing. And if we cannot have a conversation like that with them because they're in a state of upset, we may even have to get the police involved. We may have to get an attorney involved. We may have to do certain things that we need to do inside of the game of being human, but with love in our hearts, with an intention to bring about correction, not condemnation. And that is so, so different. That is not the way we have been trained. We've been trained to condemn, not to correct. So this is an entire shift in how we perceive things, but it all starts inside. And the Course in Miracles is very challenging for people because we want to take these principles and apply them to other people before we have actually lived them ourselves. And this is a course in coming inside and living the principles so that we can become an example for others of the change we want to see in the world. Let me go back to this same section, paragraph 9. So across the bridge is your completion. For you will be holy in God, willing for nothing special, but only to be holy like to Him, completing Him by your completion. So the journey of unpacking all of our beliefs that keep us in a sense of separation, and this journey can take, it actually has taken us lifetimes. Those of us who in this lifetime are able to do this kind of a work is because we have spent lifetimes correcting our mind. Jesus was teaching this 2,000 years ago. Buddha, 2,500 years ago. Teaching us to understand how powerful our mind is, and whatever we program in the mind is what we are going to project out into the world. So what we're doing is using relationships to see, what am I projecting? And the way you know what you're projecting is because what you think about the other is what is so for you. If you're conscious of that, what you give them, you know you're receiving it. Oh, I just hated on you. What part of me am I hating? If you're conscious. If you're unconscious, if you're not aware of this, you're going to be saying you're a jerk, you're not good enough, you're whatever, and never come back to question. So I'm speaking to you assuming that you know that if you spot it, you got it. So this is all about the recognition that every thought that I have about another needs to be filtered. It needs to be looked at, and we need to filter it through the truth. Is me judging, feeling superior or inferior to another, is that truth? No, it's not. It's not God's truth. The ego made it up, so that's a barrier. That's a barrier that blocks love. So if I want to get to heaven and create heaven on earth, I must do this work, because across the bridge is my completion. And this goes on to tell us that until we move all the way and give up all of our specialness, we're not going to find our wholeness. And this is where, when we acknowledge our completion, this is where God is completed. Because we have to realize that every single one of us is a part of God. And while one of us is operating against God, God is not complete, because love is not complete. There's a piece of love missing. And each one of us is an important piece to the whole puzzle. So we must want to do the work internally to become loving, so that everybody eventually can move to the place of being love.
How does being special relate to being a unique individual created by God with certain talents?
So that is, in words, are challenging. So it would be best if we move to the word uniqueness. All of us are created unique, and everybody has different talents. Specialness, as the ego refers, as the Course in Miracles uses it, is what the ego uses to say, you're special good, you're special bad. So specialness is a right or wrong, a good or a bad, not about differences. So when looking at the Course, we have to make some adjustments in the words that we're using, but this is specialness that separates. But our what we would call our special talents are really uniqueness, that are all necessary. Every unique aspect of ourselves is necessary to the whole. Let's go now to paragraph number 10, still in the same section. If you have the third edition, we're on page 339. But the bridge that leads to union in yourself, this is for you to come into your wholeness, must lead to knowledge, for it was built with God beside you and will lead you straight to Him, where your completion rests, wholly compatible with His. So we have got to cross that bridge. We have got to question every single belief that we hold, to begin to deprogram ourselves, to begin to let go of our righteousness, of our beliefs that justify separation, our beliefs that justify me being less than who I am or better than somebody else. We have got to cross that bridge, which is a bridge of deconstructing what we think about ourselves and others. Because we have to realize that the beliefs that we hold, what we learned, that information blocks the knowledge, the truth of who we are as God created us. So there is a process that we have to go through. There is no way to avoid it. No matter how much people want to become enlightened, it will not happen without moving through the process of letting go of thoughts and beliefs that are not true, because those are the barriers to what is actually truth in us, and about everybody else. Because those people that we like to hate on, we hate on them because we don't understand that we're all the same. We're all the same as God created us. Not speaking about our unique talents, I'm speaking about the essence of who we are. In our hearts, we're all pure love, made of love to love. And when we forget that, we become scared. And we don't want to acknowledge that that's what's happening to adults, but any adult that is behaving badly is because inside of them is a scared little child. And that is very challenging for us adults to accept about other adults behaving badly. But this Course moves us into that recognition, which is where we have to have compassion for others, which is why Jesus says, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Because any adult that is behaving like a child has a hurt child that is reacting to a situation that they don't think they can handle.